Welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake, everybody. Jarrett Bailey with you as always. And one of the talks of the NFL right now is everything going on in Landover, Maryland with the Washington Commanders leading the NFC East. And here to talk about that with me today, host of Believe in Commanders, former Commanders wide receiver, Anthony Armstrong. What's going on, bro? How are you?
I am good. I'm sitting outside. I'm enjoying beautiful weather. It says it's 68 and sunny in here in Texas. So I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying being atop the NFC East for once. And the burgundy and gold has been a while. And to be sitting up there with where not everybody stinks, you know what I'm saying? Feels
Right.
good. It feels good.
I was gonna say we haven't seen Washington be this consistently good since. When's the last time they started 6-2? Did they ever? Did you guys ever have that hot a start when you were
I,
there?
I didn't have that hot a start. I think the recent I had seen that stat. It's been a good while since
Yeah.
they had that hot of a start. I think a couple of times, I think there's one way back in like '87. They won the Super Bowl when they came out 6-2. So some people are kind of holding on to that, but most people are just being calm about it. They're taking it week by week. I think that's the right approach as a fan. But yeah, 6-2 to be this consistent is people often reference the RG3 era. I think those years when you had Kirk Cousins at the helm is
Yeah.
probably more where maybe 6-2 isn't what you start at, but it's like you would expect them to be pretty consistent week in and week out.
So I'm looking to see if there is. Usually there's a way that you can look at to see like all the 6-2 starts in history.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it has been a minute since they've started that strong. But regardless, the play of Jayden Daniels is the talk of the town right now and the talk of the NFL right now. And I think that as of right now, like he's not only the front runner for offensive rookie of the year, but I think that we have to start putting him in the MVP conversation as a whole. Just if you look at his numbers, his advanced metrics and everything, they all stack up to the best quarterbacks in football because right now he is one of the best quarterbacks in football. Would you put him in the MVP conversation right now?
I think you do have to bring him there. I heard another gentleman, I think it was Dominique Foxworth. He put it eloquently of saying just from where the team came from and what the expectations were. I mean, at the start of the year, over under was 6.5 wins. They have six now, so they're already there at the week 8, right before the trade deadline. Washington has already basically beaten what they're supposed to get against
Right.
the line, right? So they're outperforming themselves. I mean, from ownership change and just the mass amount of turnover to have a rookie to be at the helm to actually lead this ship that has been changing over the past couple of years, you have to take that into consideration. Plus, his on-field performance is great. He's winning in like Hail Marys. He's winning in game-winning drives, last-second passes to Terry McLaurin down the sideline. You kidding me? Like he's making MVP moments, and he's showing that he was the best quarterback in this draft.
As a former receiver, talk to me about how important that quarterback play is because we've seen Terry McLaurin be one of the better receivers in football, but he's done it with so many different quarterbacks, whether it's Taylor Heineke or Carson Wentz or whomever it may be for however long he's been there. Colt McCoy at different times. Like he's had like this long list of guys. And a lot of people this year have highlighted like Terry McLaurin just looks happy, and it's been a while since he's just looked happy. From a receiver standpoint, how important is it just to note you got a dude under center?
Man, there's a consistency that you need to operate at the highest level to be a very good offense. And when you see the pinpoint accuracy that Jayden has, like that's the type of stuff that makes Terry happy. And the fact that he'll throw the ball downfield and he'll take that shot and give you a chance. That's what's making Terry happy. And to know that you have a quarterback that believes in you to do that, and it's not just willy nilly. It's not just gunslinger type
Right.
stuff. Like he's efficient with it. Like you can play behind him. Everything that Jayden has done, how he carries himself off the field and on the field, I think it matches Terry's energy. Like Terry is one of those detail oriented guys where he's not gonna bitch and moan in the media about not getting targets, but he's over there putting in all the work to get the targets, and now he actually has a quarterback that's able to deliver. And man, I'm jealous. I mean, I play with some great quarterbacks, but I mean, when you would be lying if you didn't sit back and say, man, if I could run 10 routes, I would sure like to go out there and run 10 routes with Jayden Daniels under center. Like you got to take that.
And you look at like the efficiency that he's played with right now, he is only behind Josh Allen and EPA per play. The success rate is through the roof in terms of what the offense is doing. But the defensive side of the ball over the last month or so has been getting a lot better. They started off the year, they're bottom tier in just about every major category for about the first 4 to 5 games. Last month, though, top 15-ish in those categories, 11th in defensive DVOA right now. We've seen guys like Frankie Luvu really step up and show that they're, quietly one of the best signings of the offseason at linebacker with Frankie Luvu. Bobby Wagner still, showing his capabilities even at his age. Emmanuel Forbes over the past few games is looking like, okay, there's a reason why we took this guy in the first round. It feels like it's all coming together, and it's not just the offense carrying the defense. Like they're becoming a complete team.
It is. You're seeing the defense evolve. I mean, I was just looking at some tweets that they were breaking down some of the defensive line stunts and how they're operating, and you're really seeing just a different animal from week one till now. This is a totally different defense. They're starting to understand the schemes. They're understanding how they have the freedom to operate to make things work out. I mean, shoot, seeing how Bobby Wagner is so active in rushing the passer. I don't recall him doing that a lot in Seattle. He was just always around. I thought he was a pass cover linebacker. Now you're seeing him in there rushing and creating pressure. Joe Witt's got these guys fired up. Dan Quinn has these guys fired up. And you mentioned Emmanuel Forbes. He's like one of the last first rounder from the Ron Rivera era, and everybody, they rag on the guy, and I'm like, he was taken first round for a reason. And you compare to the young fella taken in New England, good player, but you got Forbes here, and from the history that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt have had with young DBs, you got to think that can click eventually, right? The guy had 6 pick sixes in the SEC for a reason. He got a pick against Carolina, so maybe it's coming along for him. So I'm glad to see him perform better and really start to make a little bit of a mark on the team.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with him coming out was his instincts, and there's a reason why he had so many pick sixes is because he was very instinctual in the defensive backfield. So it's cool to see him start to settle in. Mike Sainers, still the rookie from Michigan, has also had a really nice year. So I think that a lot of people understood, okay, this wasn't going to be like a one-year thing. It's going to take some time for a lot of these young guys to gel, but it seems that they're coming on quicker than expected, and I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt deserve a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely. Joe Witt. I mean, you heard Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs were talking about Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
Right, when they were going over the Hail Mary. I mean, Dan Quinn's brought an energy and a sense of freedom. And I think it's a freedom to play fast and to do what you do best, but then also be able to do it without remorse, right? You can say, hey, if I make a mistake, I'm not gonna get taken out of the game. I'm not getting cut. Like there's a freedom to get out there and make mistakes, and you'll be fine if you're just playing with a top level effort. And I love seeing it, honestly.
What can you say about Cliff Kingsbury? Because I think that was a hire that a lot of the people were kind of raising their eyebrows at. We saw how things went in Arizona. They had the 1 year where they went to the playoffs, but it was after, they kind of faded out at the end of the year and they were eliminated in the wild card round. He gets fired from Arizona, goes to USC with Caleb, and now comes back to the NFL. And it was like Cam Taylor-Britt said, oh, it's a college offense, it'll be fine. And then they dropped 40 on him. So I think Cliff Kingsbury, we've seen him get off to hot starts before, but the offense has remained hot throughout the first 2 months of the year. What can you say about Cliff Kingsbury and the offense overall?
I think Cliff is in the perfect position to be having to only call plays. That's what he was known for, and then that's what he was known for in college, being able to rack up a lot of stats. And now you have him back in that position. And I was critical of the hiring. You're like, man, how do you find your way into this position? But it was one of those things that you learn to let Adam Peters cook, right? Just let him cook, let him do his thing, and things will fall into place. I mean, I think overall, if you look at the staff in Washington, everybody's in the right spot. Dan Quinn's in the right spot. He doesn't have to worry too much about defense. He doesn't have to worry about offense because you have a former head coach over there in Cliff Kingsbury. I think that's key. He can handle everything on the offense. He doesn't have to worry about defense and trying to get it. Everybody's in the right spot where they need to be. I think being in your second chance type thing and being placed in a role where you can truly thrive, it's the same thing with the players. These coaches are going to be able to, put more energy into what they really, really care about. So Cliff he's in the right spot, man. He's cooking. I was wondering how the running game was going to work, but with Anthony Lynn, and I think also with Brian Johnson coming from Philly, I feel like his influence of the shotgun running scheme makes some sense as well. So yeah, it's everything's working out really well. You just kind of sit back and enjoy it.
And it's cool too with the running game because like they're getting incredible play out of Austin Eckler, who seems to have found somewhat of a second win. Brian Robinson's obviously great. Jeremy McNichols is coming in as like that third back that can still give them quality carries. And the offensive line, that was one of the bigger concerns for the team. And so far, like they're holding up front and giving Jayden time to make these plays and giving the run game the ability to do what they need to do.
Man, the offensive line, that was the big circle. You put that one around there. What's going to happen with O-line, especially left tackle?
Yeah,
And then they've been going with the two-man rotation. I mean, now going in this week 8, a couple injuries over there, Coleman and Lucas. So you don't know what's going to happen there. But the rotation, it was like, hey, let's see what happens. But I knew that a couple things were going to be on your side. I mean, the play caller can help out the offensive line, and the quarterback, his quick decision making can help out the offensive line, and those two things have perfectly shown up. And now it's not, I'm not discrediting them. They have not
right.
given a lot of sacks. They give a few here and there, but it's definitely not like it was last year. It's not like they're Swiss cheese out there. And plus, they're getting behind their pad and they're able to run the ball. So being able to be physical on that side of things helps you when it comes to passing the ball. People aren't really trying to rush as much whenever you've been mauling them for the first 3
Yeah.
plays. So everything's working out well. I mean, it really is. The one question I would have is if you get caught in a game where you got to drop back 50 times, are they going to hold up against a premier pass rush? I mean, shoot, probably not. But who is in this league if you weren't going up
Right.
against a premier pass rush like that? So as long as they're able to stay out of those long down and distance situations, any glaring holes aren't really going to show up. So they've been doing a great job staying out of those spots.
Yeah, right now offensively they lead the NFL in terms of efficiency. They're first in the league in EPA per play. Let's talk about the rest of the NFC East though, real quick, because Dallas is in a situation where if they lose to Atlanta this weekend, I think a lot of these power indexes and playoff predictors and whatnot have them around an 8% chance of making the playoffs if they lose to Atlanta. And a lot of this was kind of expected to me, at least. I mean, this is a team that all season long or all off season, Jerry Jones is like, oh, we're all in, but they made almost zero moves in terms of external free agent signings. Now, you take care of Dak, you take care of CD, that's good and well, but everything else around them, man, there is not a lot there. If it were 2017, that backfield would be awesome with Zeke and Dalvin Cook, but unfortunately, it is 2024, and they just do not have a lot of help offensively. Defensively, all their top stars are hurt. And it just feels like this is a year full of sitting duck guys where, okay, Mike McCarthy might not be back. Mike Zimmer might not be back. They could really be looking at a situation where they clean house.
I think that would be the best play. Honestly, I mean, you put your money where your allegiances will be,
Mhm.
but you're going to have to make some pretty overarching change. I mean, everybody in Dallas always fights for the biggest change, right? They're like, "Oh, Jerry's got to give up the reins." That ain't happening, right? Just understand that's not going to happen. Now, you got to hope that maybe a change in the thought of how you want to run some things will happen. But I mean, you made your decision. You paid your quarterback. You paid your receiver. Cool. Now let's work around that. They had a history of great drafts, and when everybody got hurt and age at the same time, and want to get paid at the same time, now it starts to, what's the saying say? When the tide rolls out, you find out who's actually out swimming in or whatever the saying is. You know what it is. You get what I'm saying.
I
They're
got
in
you.
that spot right now, right? They're in that spot where they're like they can't really do too much. They can't really do too much. I mean, if I had the keys to it, man, I would say, hey, you got to start thinking the current NFL recipe is you have to have success with a rookie quarterback on that rookie contract.
Yeah.
So now you got to go and pick one every year. I mean, even if it's a top 10 pick the best quarterback and then develop them. And then at least you start to have a plan for the future. You can't just pick up one name and think that that's going to carry you because Washington did it for 25 years, and now they
Yeah.
actually have a system of how they built this thing out, and it's beautiful to see from that standpoint. But Dallas has some. They have a little bumpy road ahead. They'll be fine because they have good players, but yeah, there's gonna be some change in the offseason.
Yeah, and I think in paying Dak, like now they kind of have to do the inverse of like, okay, well, we're paying a quarterback. Now we have to get a bunch of role players on rookie deals at this point because we can't really afford to go out and make big splashes in free agency at this point. So, and that's the thing, like they haven't drafted horribly, but there's been a lot of questionable decisions on like day 2 picks. They're just like, all right, well, a lot of people had like a day 3, round 7 grade on that second round pick that you just made, Jerry. So that might not be the best decision. I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot that they got to get right that isn't going to get fixed in a matter of the next couple weeks to maybe make them a playoff contender, especially in a division right now that has 3 legitimate like good teams right now.
I mean, hey, maybe at some point, I ain't saying tank anything, but you do have to start to
Yeah.
decide: do we really want to finish at 16 in the draft, or do we want to have a chance to be in the top 10? Hey, eventually you're gonna have to make that call, and that's a part of the game. Sometimes you gotta kind of jockey for stuff. Not saying they're gonna go lay down, but you do think a little bit in the future.
What's that do to the locker room? Say that you're a team right now that's 3-5, and if they get to 3-6, I mean, you guys, being a former player, I mean, if you're in that situation, you got to kind of know, like, all right, like this is kind of what this is.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's one of those things. Like you do understand you are playing for a job.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like okay, cool. We're still lining up every week. Still got 10 games left. Still got eight. However many games there are. You still got to put good stuff on tape. And regardless of what the organization's plans are, you still got to look out for your own because they'll quickly make a change on you, and you may not be a part of those. So for me, man, it was just hey, put as many good things on tape as you can. That way, you can at least have interest if something else changes. But I don't know, you still fight as a roster. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're not quitting out there. You're still trying to get some W's, but hey, sometimes things just don't bounce. The ball don't bounce the way you want to all the time.
That's fair. Let's go to a team who also doesn't have the ball bouncing the way they want to right now. The New York Giants, who are, uh, I know you say you don't want to tank or anything like that, but it feels like the Giants, man. If you're in a situation now, you're 2-6. You still got a few good players on that roster that you could probably get some nice draft capital for to try to build for the future. I don't see a reason to hold on to somebody like Aziz Ojolari when you can get some nice draft capital for him and try to use that to build a younger roster. Eventually, I would assume this is going to be the last year of the Daniel Jones experiment, or maybe they'll just keep riding this thing out because we've
Yeah,
said that for the past like 2 years that we thought it was going to be done. They just feel like a ginormous mess that is
they may
staring at a
not
brick
be.
wall.
They may not be as far away as you think, though. I mean,
Okay.
I would think that. I mean, especially having witnessed Washington do it. But I mean, I
Mhm.
really feel like if you get the right quarterback over there,
That's
you've
fair.
got enough young pieces that you can start making things happen. And and frankly, New York is a squad I would be like, give me a veteran quarterback, right? Kind of
Mm.
how Atlanta went for Kirk Cousins. You know what I'm saying? Shoot, I'd have wouldn't found a way to get Dak or something like that, right? Just give him a young Malik Neighbors, and you're already gonna throw him the ball every play, but at least he's gonna make better decisions than Daniel Jones has made, right? And he'll give you some sort of a chance at the defense. I mean, they lead the league in sacks, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to dump like that whole thing? I mean, yeah, you're not gonna get a whole new quarterback right now unless you try to make a crazy splash, but I think that they're not that far away. I think that they're annoying. They're annoying enough that they could find their way into the playoffs and get a run, especially if they have good quarterback play.
I'm trying to think of like what potential quarterbacks could be available next year in terms of trying to
Like
get
free
somebody.
agency.
Yeah, like because I mean, you already said Dak's already kind of freed up in Dallas, so they can't go and get him. Kirk's in Atlanta, so I mean that's going to be a long term thing there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, but you say that, but then they go and trade people like w- next week. They'll sign somebody to
that's
a big
fair.
deal, and they'll cut them. So I mean, I figured I know this much. They'll trade your ass. They'll trade your ass. I think that's my friend over here playing some golf, but I'm doing a podcast, and so he's I see him looking. I see you over there looking.
I can't even hear it, so he's doing a
Yeah,
good
you're
job of
good.
staying quiet. No,
You're
that's
good.
good.
No, they're good.
From
Let me
a
see.
from a
Go
Malik
ahead.
Neighbors standpoint, while you look, knowing like as a receiver, if you know that you're getting the ball all the time, like you are, I'm gonna line up here if the ball is gonna be coming to me. How I mean, does that change the mindset of maybe being a guy who, you're like, all right, I'm probably not gonna get this ball. What's that do to what do both those mindsets look like for a receiver?
Man, look, if you know you're getting to rock every play, like you remember NBA Jam?
Yeah.
I'm over here working, man. I got many obligations.
this is this is
Yeah.
on the fly podcasting, ladies and gentlemen, right
Yes,
here.
we are doing it. We are live. No, like if you know you're getting to rock every play, like NBA Jam, whenever it's like he's heating up, it's that type
Yeah.
of thing,
Mm.
right? Even if it's just a hitch and then a slant and then you catch a dig. And like then you slowly start building up these routes, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, like I'm getting the ball this play, like this is my play. Now when you're in the league, you got to run every route like you're gonna get the ball. Like you have
Mhm.
to assume it's coming your way because it can, But there are a few times where you're like, I'm just a clear out in this situation, but you still
Right.
got to run them. But if you have a really good quarterback, and this is the stuff that I want Daniel Jones to do, is not just take the read because that's the read that it is. The defense knows you're throwing a dig to Malik Neighbors. How about you throw that sucker to the flush and out route, right? Throw it to the other guy
Yeah.
because they're gonna jump Malik. So I want to see him take it, be like a F it throw, like I'm pump faking to Malik. The safety sits his feet down, and then you throw it over the top, right? And then they're gonna be like, whoa, but he's not. I don't think he's wired that way. I think he's very
Right.
methodical. He's going to do things the way the system is written up to do.
Valid enough. The Philadelphia Eagles game behind Washington. They're still a weird team to me, man. Like I understand that they just beat Cincinnati and they did it convincingly, and the offense is starting to look better. There's that big Nick Sirianni cloud that still looms over them to me, and I'm just waiting for it to start pouring. What do you
Man,
make of Philadelphia right now?
man, they're finding a way to win.
They are.
And truly, I haven't looked too much just because they're further down the line for Washington.
Mhm.
But you pay attention to them enough. I did see the one where Sirianni was like getting after the fans or something like that, talking
Right.
back noise to the fans. I don't. I wouldn't. I don't. I wouldn't think you. I would want to see that, but I feel like that's a kind of a. I don't know if that's a love or respect thing in Philly. Like, is that a regional thing? I don't know.
I
So
don't. I think Philadelphia. Like I've seen so many people be like, it would make perfect sense for them to love that guy because he just kind of embodies what Philadelphia is. It's just
that's
like
what. Yeah.
not giving a shit. But I think a lot of that backfired when they started losing last year and it collapsed down the stretch. So I think it's
Yeah.
a situation where they love you when you're winning, they hate you when you're losing. Like the perfect
Yeah.
embodiment of that.
Yeah. I mean, shoot. When they get AJ Brown back out there, they're a totally different team. I mean, he's so damn physical. He can run any route. He's going to body you. And I think it opens up play action and just it does so much more for that offense. And adding Saquon, good lord, that's not fair, right? That's not fair. You mean you know who he is, you know what he can do, and they're going to use him often if
Yeah.
he's going to be successful. And I mean that's definitely a challenge you got to pay attention to. So it's like pick your poison, right? Do you want to get routed up on the outside by Devontae? Do you want to get bodied by AJ? You want Dallas to run around there and have some success, or you want them to just hand it to Saquon? And then you have the whole, the push, whatever I guess it's not called tush push, but whatever. They had
Right.
that play, so then that's annoying as hell. Philly's Philly, man.
Right.
Philly's Philly.
I feel like when they're clicking, like all of that talent, they're like prime Carmelo Anthony, where it's just like, all right,
Mm.
he can either just shoot from here, he can drive, he'll do
Yeah.
whatever he wants
He's
to do.
going to the mid range. He's only got a midi.
And
And then he
he's
sits there,
still gonna put 50 up on you. It's
still
amazing.
gonna put 50. That's
What
them. That's Philly.
how do you think that the Commanders stack up to the Eagles right now?
Man, I feel like offensively they're showing up. Well, shoot, they score a lot of points, but they've had a few games where they've struggled. So I think
Yeah.
Philly will be probably their biggest test defensively. I think familiarity is one thing, just in division. But tell you, man, something about that 5. Like he's gonna walk in there and be like, I don't care really what you think, because he's he don't know nothing about Philly. He's not worried about it. So I think they match up on the offensive Philly's offense versus Washington's defense. You got to give the plus to Philly's receivers. I mean,
Yeah.
Smith and Brown, they're talented. Um, I mean, they're just stacked on offense, and so it's gonna be a challenge for real. But the way this team is creating pressure, and they're getting after the quarterback. You know, it, can it make some trouble for Jalen Hurts? And I think they're gonna have to play good team defense on that side. But then flipping over offensively, I mean, they found a way to be successful by
Yeah.
throwing the ball like crazy last week or running the ball like crazy. So I feel like they're going to be prepared. That right there, flex both of those games to prime time because they're going to be some slugfest.
Yeah, I wonder what the primetime schedule does look like for both those weeks because we're already seeing some games get flexed out because we know what other games are going to be better. So
I
that's
found you some quarterbacks for
yeah.
2025.
Let's do this. Let's do this.
Here. Sam Darnold,
Oh, I'll say
all
that would
right,
be a good shout. Yeah,
27 years old. I mean,
sure.
I could see somebody, and he's going back to New York with the other team. There's so many storylines in there. Conversely enough, Zach Wilson is there as well. Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett. Marcus Mariota if he wants to get out of there, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields if you want to go in
Oh
there.
man, as a Steelers fan, it would break my heart to not see Fields come back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
But if
do
he
you want him in over Russell though? I mean, Russell's balling. Russ is
That's
cooking.
in a perfect world for me, because the Steelers have a ton of cap space next year. In a perfect world, they sit both of them down and be like, "Look, Russ, we want you to kind of be the present. Justin, we understand that you could go elsewhere and play right now. We get that. We respect that if that's what you want to do. But at the same time, we want to keep kind of grooming you under Russ. And once he's ready to retire, we want you to be kind of the heir apparent and step in and become the starter. Hopefully, they do that, and hopefully, it works. That's my perfect world.
I think that organization is the good enough to do that and then honor it.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think other folks will say it and then be like, flush that deal. We're not doing that
Yeah.
anymore. Cutting to both of y'all. We're you know what I mean? Like they'll do something totally different. I that's how I feel about that.
I,
But
th-
no,
I think that Justin Fields would be an interesting name though for the Giants in that situation, especially if they're. I mean, if they're the team that because the offensive line when they're healthy, I mean, it looked really good. It's just they lost Andrew Thomas, they lost a lot of guys up there. If that's the
yeah.
team that ends up taking Ashton Gency, the running back at a Boise State, you pair that with Justin Fields, that could be that the Giants would instantly become must watch to me.
I'm telling you, man, there's enough talent over there. That's why I marked this game against New York as a trap game for Washington because there's just so much talent on that side that if you show up slipping, you gonna get slept. Like anybody can catch you with a scary left and
Yeah.
get knocked out. And that what this game could be, especially coming off of the energy of the Hail Mary. It's one of those like, hey, lock back in, focus, because you got Brian Burns on one side.
Yeah.
He will tear you up, right? Dexter Lawrence got 9 sacks. He'll tear you up. So yeah, they're not that far away, man. And Daniel Jones plays well against
I was
Washington.
gonna say 12 touchdowns, 3 picks in his career against Washington. He is usually very good against. Well, I think you've talked me into the Giants just being kind of a quarterback away from being legit
Telling you.
again. That's
I'm
that's a,
telling
that's
you.
a decent point. That's
Yeah.
all fair. Anthony Armstrong, my friend, where can the folks find Believe in Commanders, and how
Man,
often are we doing this?
Man, believe in Commanders at least twice a week. I tell
Okay.
you that much. I get something previewing it, something coming out of the game. I usually throw something in the middle of the week as well. See if I get a guest or two talk about some things. But all your favorite streaming platforms, man, do me a favor, y'all comment on there for your boy, and then follow me at Rated Armstrong on all your favorite social platforms too.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on Believe as well, head over to Believe in Commanders once you're done here and give that a listen. If you're listening to this wherever you get your podcast, leave a review, do all that fun podcast stuff. Anthony, my man, appreciate you hopping on, and hopefully your Commanders give you a nice little playoff run to talk about throughout January.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.
All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning into the Pump Fake. Enjoy your weekend of football. We'll talk soon.